Hey everybody, how's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's having an awesome day. Today I would like to do a quick tutorial on how I would go about mixing a salsa track. A friend of mine from Miami who's an amazing trombone player and great composer is like a lot of you, and he's learning how to mix his own projects and work with Logic the first time. So he asked me if I would do a tutorial on how to mix a salsa project. And so yeah, I'm going to show you again. Disclaimer, guys. There's a million ways to do this, and this is just how I do it. Maybe you could take some things that I showed you and apply it to your own style or your own workflow. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I have here is I have a percussion track. A lot of times you'll get tracks that have various instruments already mixed in. I have congas, kick drum, snare, ride cymbal, cowbell. So this is all on this track here. So, and this is done live by somebody live who mixed it down. Now there's things that could be problematic with that, but we'll work with what we got. So the next track I have here is a piano, bass, and a vibraphone track, and this is done MIDI. So as you know, we're not mixing a live project, we're mixing kind of a backing track with live instruments. So let's keep that in mind. And then I have 3 trombone tracks here. Jose did a great job recording these, and they sound great. But the first thing I'm noticing is I see them in stereo. Now a trombone isn't a stereo instrument, so what we got to do is make these mono, and because we got to put them in a specific place in our mix. And if you have stereo, then you have things coming from both sides, so we're not going to have that. And instruments like horns and things that are recorded with one mic should be in mono. Pianos, guitars, pianos should be stereo, but guitars mono, drums mono, unless you're like dealing with congas or I'm sorry, drums should be in stereo unless you're dealing with congas and percussion. That anything that requires more than one mic, you're going to record it in stereo. But there are instruments like horns, and anything that's recorded with one mic should be in mono. So again, sorry for the confusion with that. So anyway, let's go ahead and listen to what we're working with here and get started. So as you can hear, this is salsa, and you have the montuno, the piano montuno, you have the bajo, you have all the percussion. And so what I'm going to do here is you have to come to this mix with a vision. And my vision for this is this is just going to be a really good sample of what this arrangement should sound like. So they should be able to hear all the instruments, all the voices. And that's basically what I'm going to do here for this representation. There's no vocal, so I'm going to do a very minimal, I'm going to approach this very minimalistically. And so let me get started here. First thing I notice is that the tracks are very high. And that's going to be problematic when we start mixing. So the first thing I do is I go to utility, I put a gain plug in there, and then I just kill everything by 15 dB. So I'm going to put that on all tracks right now. So as you can see, I did all the tracks. I put that plug-in on there. And what it does, it gives me more headroom to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the fader here and go ahead and play the track with the gain plug-in on. And in Pro Tools, there's a thing called clip gain, but just think of this plugin as a trim knob on a mixer. So it just gives us the headroom we need. So here. So as you can see, we got everything at a nice level. And that's the first thing. Second thing is we're going to start our routing. And so I'm going to go ahead and create an aux. I'm going to create several of these. And how you do it is go to options, create auxiliary channel, and then you assign a bus. So, you know, for me, this is going to be bus 1, and I'm going to call this mix bus. And what this is that's where all my tracks end up. That's like the final mixing bowl. And I use subgroups to do things globally. And so if I want to EQ the trombones, I go to the subgroup instead of every trombone. I just EQ them globally. If I want to compress the trombones, I do that. If I want to compress the percussion, you know, I do that globally. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing my subgroups, and I will show you how to route them. So as you can see here, I got all my subgroups and I have them all labeled. So my mix bus, my band, my percussion, my NYC percussion, which I will tell you what that is later, my trombone, subgroup for my trombones, my effects, and all my effects here. So let's go ahead with the routing. So the percussion is going to go to the percussion submix, and this is going to go to the band because they're part of the band. Trombones are going to go to the horn submix, and all these effects here are going to go to the well, hold on, just these three are going to go to the effects submix. The effects submix is going to go to the mix bus. The horns are going to go to the band because they're part of the band. The NYC percussion is going to go to the percussion because it's an effect I'm using for percussion. Percussion is going to go to the band. Band's going to go to the mix bus, and there you have it. So everything's routed, and everything's looking good. So let's go and let's start mixing. As you notice, I got everything here color coded and marked. If you don't know how to do this, go click the track, assign the color and the icon. So that's how I did that. So the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with the percussion. So let's go ahead and play the percussion track. Let's do a loop where everything's, you know, kind of playing, kind of where they're playing, where he's playing kind of loud. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm listening for mud. I'm listening for boxiness. So I'm going to basically wash the car before I I'm going to rinse it off, get rid of all the dirt, all the mud, and then start to polish. So let's do a sweep with our EQ, and let's get rid of those nasty frequencies. Also, gotta make sure that I have room for the kick drum, the congas, the cowbell, and some of the the other instrument, percussion instruments. So let's go ahead and do a sweep. So what I did is I got rid of the harsh frequencies I was hearing. Again, I got rid of some of the boxiness here in the 500, got rid of some of the mud, and the harsh frequencies that I was hearing. So I did a sweep, and I just listened for the frequencies that were really giving me problems, and I just got rid of them. So let's see if my selections bettered our mix or diminished it. Well, as you can hear, once I hit the EQ, I mean, everything kind of just came to life. So that's a good thing. Again, we make small moves, not big moves. Again, it's the little things you do that make a great mix. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to compress it, get those transients under control. And the compressor I like to use is either the 1176 or the this one, the DBX here. Let's see which one sounds better to us. Here's the DBX. Okay, now let's try this 1176 here. Now the DBX. Sounds to me that the DBX gives a little more punch, in this case. So, and again, salsa, this is dance music. You have to be able to dance to this stuff. If you can't dance to this stuff, then your mix is not what it's supposed to be. This is dance music, so has to punch, has to move, So let me go ahead and hit the EQ, and let's highlight some of the really good stuff in the mix. So what I did here is the EQ, I boosted that kick drum, and I boosted those congas. Down the cowbell was a little bit much, so I dipped that. I'm going to dip that up. Notice I do everything about increments of 3 dB because I just make small moves, nothing big. So again, that sounds pretty good. Now, one thing I've noticed is that since we have a stereo track, there's not really a stereo spread where you can hear all the instruments in a different place. Now, Logic has this this plugin called Stereo Spread, and what it does is, I'll show you what it does here, and I'm just going to do a light, low, high spread here, and then watch. I'll do it without. just like put things kind of in a, it's just kind of spread things out a little bit, and that's what we want. We want room for the bass, we want room for the, you know, the melody instruments and the trombone. So yeah, I use that sparingly. Don't use that, you know, as a I don't really use much of it. I just use just a little bit, just to kind of give it a little space, you know. So all right, now that we got that done, let's go to the piano and the bass. All right, so the first thing is we clear off the mud. Let's. I can hear a bunch of things right now that I'm gonna have to, you know, kind of adjust here. So go ahead. Again, what I did is I just cleaned up some of the mud I heard. Now, again, we compress this, get those transients under control, and let's go ahead and use the LA2A for this. As you can see, it really brought a lot in the low end, and so what we're going to do is go ahead and dip that when we are working on when we EQ all the good stuff. So now we're going to EQ the good stuff. Okay, now let's do this. Let's use the spread again, and see if that helps our cause here. So we'll leave the spread off. Didn't really help. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So let's add the percussion with this, and let's bounce these. and I'm gonna add a compressor. Again, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna add a compressor, and I'm just gonna leave it alone. But it's gonna bring out, going through the, the compressor is gonna bring out, if some problem areas, if things are. Now let's put a little reverb on some of this. Now I told you I was gonna use stock plugins, but I'm gonna make an exception. I really like this reverb. This reverb from Waves is really good, and it really helps give you a sense of dimension in your mix. And notice how I went and I rolled off the low end, because that's gonna muddy up our mix. Let's do a plate, and let's do like a I don't know, like a medium dark plate. Remember, since everything's really bright, so let's see what it does for us. Go ahead and let's do the instrument. I'm trying to add dimension to the mix, that's all. So that's working. And let's give, since there is reverb on this percussion, there is reverb, so I'm not going to add any reverb to there. It's just going to muddy up the waters. But I will add reverb to everything once I'm done. So let's look at the trombones now. Before we work on the trombones, let's do something here. See all these spots here where there's blank space? In the mix, you can hear the trombones. You can hear them breathe. You can hear them. You might just get rid of those. See how you can hear them breathe, and you can hear them like, yeah, that's not anything you're gonna need. So what you do is, and to make your workflow easier, is you highlight all the trombone parts here, and then you go here, you make a group, call it bones, and then what they do is they control all the editing and everything you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of all the blank space you hear here. So it's very important. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I'm back, as you can see here, I went through the whole mix. Give you a shot here. Went through the whole entire mix, and just make sure that all the dead space was gone. The reason why we get rid of the dead space is because when we add compression brings loud sounds up in the mix, so you're gonna hear a lot of that dead air, that breathing. That just muddies up a mix, and it's not good for everyone. So the next thing I do is, once I do all that, and again, this is kind of a tedious thing, but I'll go through and I'll, again, using my fade tool, and making sure that all my my trombones are in a group here. I'll go through each end of my cut and add a fade, like so. As you can see, I'm just adding a fade. Reason why we add this crossfade is because in audio, if you have it in digital audio, when you have clips like this, a lot of times it causes a popping sound. And when you do the crossfade like this, you get rid of that popping sound. And again, when you add compression and EQ, those popping sounds can come out at inopportune moments. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, I went through the whole mix, or not the whole mix, but all the trombone parts, and I did crossfades on each and every one, as you can see. I don't know if you can see those, but right here, and right here, everywhere I made a cut, the start of a cut and the ending of a cut, I put a fade in. All right, so let's go ahead and let's mix our trombones, and we're gonna do this globally here. So I'm gonna go to the EQ, and I'm gonna go here and do this and roll off, because there's no information here for our trombones. Oh, forgot to, let's pan these trombones. So usually what I would do is I would keep 1 and 3 close and then put 2 over here. So yeah, so I get kind of a stereo spread. So let's go to where the trombones are really playing. There's a section right here where they're really going for it. And so let's listen to that real quick. And here we go. So did you hear that little pop there? To me, that sounds like he did a punch in. And again, here's a good rule for you guys. If you're doing a punch, make sure, if you're cutting your regions in certain parts there, make sure you do the crossfade, because you will hear pops and stuff like that. So again, small tack, fast release. And I'm putting them through the LA2A here. Okay, now I want to give my trombones a little more oomph. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tape. Again, I apologize. This is not a stock plugin, but it is a plugin I use a lot on horns, and it's a tape plugin. I want you to hear this. See how I just brought them to life? And usually, if we were doing trumpets, we would add a little bit of distortion to the trumpets too, because horns in salsa are very, very sizzly. So we want to do that. And so we're going to go ahead and add the verb to them. And again, I'm going to use our verb again, just because I like this verb. And I'm going to use a bright hall and pre-delay about maybe about 50. Again, so let them hit the note, and then the reverb hits afterwards. So let's go ahead and add the verb. Do you see how I rolled off the load and started getting muddy? So I'm gonna go to like 83. Let's see what happens there. Now, what I like to do on salsa, with horns especially, I like to add some delay, just to give it that that slap. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a stereo delay here, and feedback is, let's do like a 16th note slap, and we'll sync it because I got the time here, so it makes it easier. Do the feedback around 2, and then you'll hear the effect. And again, I just added to the reverb. Let's hear it again without the effect. So watch them, and now we're going to put them in the mix, and watch how they sit in the mix. All right, so let's listen to how well they're sitting in the mix. All right, so it sounds pretty good. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called the NYC compression trick. And this is basically a parallel compression. It's what they call, some people in Nashville call it spank. They normally do this with drums, but I do this with percussion and drums. And what I do is I boost the low end and the high end. And then what I do is I grab a compressor and I smash the compressor, meaning I'll go here to pumping. And I like the DBX for that. And, the threshold's all the way down, ratio's all the way up. Makeup's about 5. So, and this is what I'll do. I'll add, again, what we're going to do is we're going to get the bass and the percussion working together. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to NYC percussion. It's just parallel compression. And what it does is just adds a little more punch to our mix here. And again, we use it sparingly. We use it gingerly. So let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to... Okay. That's percussion, sorry. Okay, so, and then what I like to do too is, as I go to the band here, I'm going to add some tape delay to the actual band mix, and watch what it does to the band mix here. And I'm not going to add a bunch of it, but just watch. Alright, see, I gave it a little punch there, and that's what we needed. And so what I'm going to do here is, for the band, I'm going to do a thing called room. And what this does is I put everybody in a room. Now that I gave everybody some ambiance, and I'm going to use our verb for this, and I'm just going to use it again sparingly. I'm going to do the bright hall this time because, you know, Latin music a lot of times is played in large bright halls. And 20, about 20 for the pre-delay. And I'm going to go ahead and again adjust the EQ, but this time I'm going to bring up the highs because Latin music is bright, very, very bright, and we want to bring out the brightness. And so here's the band, and we're going to go to the room, and let's see how much, just add that sparingly, and watch what happens. It's just like glue. Now there's one thing I'm hearing, and it's, I don't really like Logic's multi-band compression. And what multi-band compression does, it picks frequencies, and what it does is you select a frequency, and instead of compressing the whole tune, it compresses that frequency. It sounds like our low end is a little out of hand, so let's go ahead and take care of that. So as you can see, we just contain those frequencies that are getting out of hand. You know, they start popping out and in opportune places. You know, usually we can compress them or we can automate them, but multi-band compression works the same way. So, and then let's look at the ending here. Now, there's a reason I didn't put a fade on the ending. So let's go ahead and let's get another group going here, and let's call it band. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do get a fade going, and you know, just see how it. So let's see if we got our fade going. As you can see, there's a little bit of a pop there that we don't need, so let's get rid of that. Okay. Go ahead and get the fade tool, or let's get our fade tool. That's too quick of a fade. We want the fade to, you know, kind of, there we go, fade out a little later. Then we're going to do the same thing with the trombones. let's listen to the fade. Alright, so now that we've made some adjustments here, we've, after our mix bus, our multiband compression. So as you can see here, what this does, it takes, it just controls certain frequencies. When I say frequencies get a hand, I was looking for what frequencies need to be tamed down, but not the whole entire mix. So, that's basically what I'm doing. And this is, 6 dB. Again, I don't do it in huge increments. You notice how I did it in little increments. I've noticed that up here in the 2K area, we could use a little bump. Again, I'm looking for, remember, the five frequencies. If you don't know what that is, go watch my video on the 5 frequencies. But I'm looking for in this in the low end, I'm looking for punch. Now, am I getting punch in the low end instead of mud? Am I getting in this area right here? Am I getting am I getting warmth instead of mud? Am I in this area here? Am I getting clarity instead of boxiness? And is in this area, is it harsh? Or so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the positives in each frequency. That again, watch my video on the 5 frequencies if you don't know what that is. So I'm looking for punch in the low end instead of boominess. Looking for warmth here in this area in the bass. Is the bass sound warm? Does it sound muddy? In the snare drum, in the piano, am I getting boxiness, or am I getting clarity? I was getting a little bit of boxiness because there was a little buildup here, and in here was I getting definition, brilliance in the trombone, so I built that up, and then was I getting some air right here where you could hear the the kick drum, and so, and another thing too, guys, Latin is very bright. I think I said that before, but it's very bright music. So let's go back and let's play from start to finish and see if we did a good job here. Here is that we're not leaving much. We didn't carve out room for our trombones in the MIDI track. So our trombones are about 1500. That's where our brilliance is at. So let's go over here into our MIDI track and carve out some space here. Carve out some 15. Carve out in the frequency where where the trombones, the brilliance is at. Carve out a little bit here, and just a few dB, and let's see what happens. Let's see if we get our trombones to pop a little bit. as you can hear, definitely an improvement from what we started off with, and we'll just go ahead and play that real quick. Um, I think that we did a good job on this mix. I think that, there was clarity. We brought things out. We made it sound like a decent demo. So I'll play it. I'll play the last couple bars for you. We went from that to this, which is, we added dimension, we added space, we added punch, clarity. Um, it's night and day. So let's take a listen with our EQ and compression and all our work. And some of you are going to probably ask about this plugin right here, this multi-band. This is a plugin by Isotope called Neutron 2, and it has a lot of functions. It has gates, compressors, exciters, transient shapers. It's a really handy plugin to have because when I'll play it for you. When you play this, you can see the wavelength, and you can see where the work needs to be done. So it's a very handy tool, and I use it quite a bit. So especially for multi-band compression, which we need. Again, I'm not too crazy about the one that's provided through Logic. I mean, they all do the same thing, but this one for me is and I'm gonna add some soft saturation to the mix too. But and I'll play. So it's the little things that you do, and again, there's a million ways to do this. There's tons of ways to EQ and get the same result, but for this, what it is, it's something that you can play, and your client will go, oh, okay, then I know what it's gonna sound like live, and you give a really good representation of what the song's supposed to sound like. I think that there might be a vocal on this. I'm not sure, but it is what it is. And like I said, that does it for me today. I hope I helped somebody. I hope I gave you kind of a better understanding. And this method works pretty much for all Latin tunes. I mean, that was with the exception of vocals and this, that, and the other. A lot of the things I did here, I would do on like 80% of the Latin stuff or 90% of the Latin stuff I would get. Again, I had different elements to work with that I normally use, and it's not a bad or good thing. It's just different, and that's what makes you a good mixer, is when you are able to take things that they give you and give someone back a product better than what they gave you. That's what they're looking for. Anyway, so like I said, I want to thank my buddy in Miami for giving me this track, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to watch and listen. Until next time, take care.